There are 6 regions in Genshin Impact as we're finally nearing the end, and of course every player has their favorite region, whether it be the Nation of Freedom released in 2020, the Nation of Contracts released in 2020, half a decade ago, the Nation of Eternity released in 2021, the Nation of Wisdom released in 2022, the Nation of Freedom, the Nation of Justice released in 2023, the Nation of War released in 2024, and of course all these regions have their own personalized beauty, but what if I told you a nation released over a month ago has already become a fan favorite?
Welcome back, friends, family, and fun. Today, we're going to be talking about a special sub-region called Krai once again. Now, I was supposed to get this video about like a week after Krai release, but unfortunately, if you couldn't tell already, I've been sick. And this whole video is probably going to be a try not to cough challenge for me. And even if I do end up coughing, I will cut out the video because I do not want you guys to hear whatever is about to go on with that cough. But anyways, Krai has quickly become a fan favorite and it's been exceeding everyone's expectations. And honestly, this region has had more positivity than negativity, which is the main reason I wanted to talk about it. Yeah, the Genshin community has been giving this region more positivity than negativity. We might actually be entering the end times by now. But you all must be wondering why this region is doing so well, and who better to answer your question than me? You probably thought of like 10 other people to answer your question, but this is being you time, okay? That's what we're going to be talking about today. But anyways, I'm going to be splitting this video down into 5 parts. 1, the story, 2, characters, 3, map and scenery, 4, enemies, and 5, final thoughts. So I won't waste any more of your time, so let's talk about it. Sorry, just kind of noticed that like you haven't subscribed yet, and I don't know, that's like kind of weird. It's like we're kind of here and you just didn't like subscribe, so it's kind of weird. I know I said I wasn't gonna waste any of your time, but I just thought it was like really weird. And you know, I know you like to procrastinate, like you don't have a few assignments that you haven't done, you haven't subscribed, so I just thought it was weird. So I thought like, you know, I might like remind you not to do your assignments because I haven't done mine yet. But what we really need to talk about is like the fact that you haven't subscribed yet. Okay, sorry, let's get into the video. Starting off with the Archon quest. Now, this is what everyone looks forward to when we first head off into a new region, and honestly, it did not disappoint at all. It was so well done. Like, there was so much lore impacted in this Archon quest, but the way it was done, it wasn't like so much information that like we couldn't like handle at first. Like, it was like spread out so evenly well that it was like enough time to process it and get into our minds, and it was honestly well done. So let me give like a quick little recap just in case you forgot anything. So starting off, we start off in Notlin and we try to leave silently, but we end up getting caught and then forced to say our goodbyes. Then we leave with a Nepha on a boat. Then Traveler is like, oh my gosh, this is where we landed on our spaceship when we first arrived in Krai. We then learn about the Wild Hunt, which is caused by rerir's gross body. We run around some more with Nepha. We meet Flynn's after Paimon bumps into him, but luckily Paimon didn't reveal her true primordial power and didn't one-shot him, so thankfully he survived. We go to our rooms, then leave. Then we meet Loma, who's being nice, and then the Futui come in and spread their evilness. Then they leave. We find Dory, who is in fact trying to scam people, but honestly, I respect the hustle. Then she tells us not to go to the Curatorium of Secrets, which is ran by Nether. We say okay, and that information is quickly thrown away. We walk a bit, then we meet Sandrone, which I wish she had a clear introduction because honestly, she might be one of my favorite harbingers. But she beats up Catherine and leaves her in a ditch somewhere. Then she got bored of us and let Catherine come back to her post. We meet Aino, who is adorable. We walk a bit, then we save a bird, which will come up later. Then we go over to the Frostmoon Sands, and we meet Kuhenki. Then we see Loma, who is now our friend because we saved the bird, and Loma is secretly a Disney princess who can communicate with animals. She tells us about Kuthar, which is the moon goddess. And the moon goddess who they're talking about is Columbina, and the Fatui are desperately trying to get a hold of her. Loma then tells us more about the Moon Sisters and their fate. Then Loma heals a sick child. Then the Fatui come back, start beef. Then they get jumped. We return back to our rooms because it's late. The Traveler can't sleep, so they decide to go on a walk, and we end up in a secret underground passage. Then meet Columbina. She lives up to the whole mysterious aura and speaks in riddles, and I guess you could say, but she also kind of speaks clearly. We leave Columbina alone, then we see our sibling, and then go into another secret passage, because passages are everywhere. And then we're happy with our sibling, and it feels like old times. And then we get to the relic, well, we get to the relic, then we get knocked out, and then everything went black, and then we get jumped by the wild hunt, but then Flynn saves us. We go back to our rooms, and we go exactly where Dory tells us not to go, and we meet up with Nefer, who was with Loma. Loma wants help finding the relic, which we had something to do with. The traveler feels so guilty, and then reveals the truth about the relic and why it's gone missing. Loma isn't mad, and then tells us it's not our fault, and Jehoda comes in and is forced to go on a mission with us, but Nefer isn't allowed to take sides, so we need to infiltrate the Fatui's base, so she fires Jehoda in order for us to do that. We go on a jailbreak, then we find Velamina, who betrayed Loma and took the relic. We find Sandrone, who starts rage-baiting Loma, then the wild hunt comes in, we see our siblings, but then we find out that is, in fact, not our sibling, but something evil. We slash our sibling in a cool cutscene, we return, and Sandrone gets mad and throws the relics at us and tells us to leave. We come back to Nefer, and she hires Jehoda once again. We go around with Nefer to find out the truth about the person who has impersonated our sibling. Then we go back to Loma, who is in fact aware of Columbina's location. Then we go to Columbina, who tells us she doesn't want to come back to the Fatui, and she also tells us the person that we came into contact with is one of the 5 sinners, Rerir Solnari. And by the way, Dan Sliff is nowhere to be found. Yeah, the sinners came back, nowhere to be found. Like, he's like nowhere to be found. Like, if you try to find where he is, nowhere. But let's just wait until like we see like a Hillytro acting funny. That's when he'll come back. Not because of a sinner, but because a Hillytro is acting weird. Anyways, we find out someone was murdered, and Flynn's is a suspect, and we go out and find Flynn's, who is in fact beefing with one of the sinners, and we save him. We go out and clear his name of murder, and then I realize this is taking too long, so I'm gonna get to the juicier part. Rusher appears once again as one of the sinners, and Ash and Bob fight him for a bit. Then it gets bad, then Columbina says this, then Sandrona gets mad at Columbina, and then says she wants us to fight more. Okay, that's basically, I can't like... Okay, now that we got that out of the way, let's talk about the Archon quest officially. Now, one of the main things that I loved about this Archon quest was the pacing. Now, usually Genshin has sort of problems with pacing in Archon Quest because there's some moments in Archon Quest where it just feels like really boring or really dragged out, and you're just waiting for things to get interesting again, or you're just waiting for this part to end so you can go on and get something interesting in the story, and that happens a lot, and I always see it in regions of players complaining about a certain section, and I feel like this sub-region, it didn't have any like boring section to me personally at least, and I know I didn't see too many people talking about any boring sections within this Archon quest, so that's really amazing. And part of the reason why is, for an example, the lore drops. Now, the lore drops, they weren't like thrown all the way to the end where it was just like a whole bunch of lore like thrown at the end and you're just having to sit there and process everything. Like, what? Instead, all the lore drops, they were spaced out evenly with the story, and I absolutely loved that. Like, there was lore dropped in the beginning, there was lore dropped in the middle, there was a lore drop at the end, and it was just evenly spaced out. Everything was like so well done with the lore, and we didn't have to wait for like a specific section to get like an lore drop, or we didn't have like too much confusion. Then I think part of the reason why is because the Archon quest was severely long. I think it was, again, like 8 hours, I believe, or 9 or 10. It really depends on how fast you are with Archon quest, but everything was like so well spaced out, especially with the cutscenes. The cutscenes, I really loved how many cutscenes there were, and I really loved how interesting each of them were. They were like thrown in so specifically instead of like having a random cutscene just pop up. Every cutscene like fits so well into the story. It made it flow out so great, and I absolutely loved the cutscenes, especially the animations going in. Especially, I feel like my favorite cutscene had to be sibling versus sibling, even though I know that wasn't our sibling. It was a really well cutscene. I love the little slash thing. Sorry, I'm just talking anyway. But another good thing about the story was the humor. Now, I like when stories get serious, and the story had a time to get serious, but it also had good humor, and I think the whole section with Nefer and Jehoda really added on to the humor and made it like, it was really funny to me personally, and I know like a lot of people don't find Genshin's story like really funny, but honestly, the whole interaction between Nefer and Jehoda, that was funny. I got to give them that whole section. It was really funny. But most importantly, what I absolutely adored about this Archon quest was the ending. The ending actually left me satisfied. Now, with Archon quests, usually they all kind of like leave players satisfied, but there's always like some type of like, I really need to see what's gonna happen next, and you're just kind of left unsatisfied in that sense, like where you just like really want to know what happens next. This Archon quest, of course I wanted to know what happens next, but it also like it kind of gave me a satisfied feeling because they gave us like enough like cutscenes, enough lore, enough time with the characters to like leave me like, okay, I can definitely wait. But also they didn't leave us on a crazy cliffhanger. We got to see Rerir, we got to see a little fight between him and Harbinger for crying out loud, which I never thought we would actually see. That's beyond me. They had enough of everything to actually leave me satisfied, which honestly I was completely baffled by, because usually I would always expect like just try to figure out what's gonna happen. But this Archon quest left enough room for crazy theories to happen, and I really loved that aspect of it.
What did you do that for?
Now let's talk about characters, starting off with Nefer. Now Nefer is complete opposite of what I expected her to be. Now based off the trailer and initial thoughts, I thought she would be like sort of like a complete like mean character, and also have like a voice that some people would I'm gonna avoid saying that, but yeah, I expected her to have like this sort of like, I guess like mean woman thing going on, but she was the complete opposite of what I expected, and I love that. Nefer is incredibly smart, as like she was able to work her way around like taking a side, and also the way she obtains information from people. Like usually some characters, they just go in with just torture, but she gets information by having connections, and she really plays this whole neutral vibe, but also she keeps her morals like intact, so she's helping the traveler, especially with this like evil going on. So she obviously doesn't like think for herself, she's obviously has like some heart going on, and I actually like that since she's opposite of what I expected, so I'm really happy for that. Next up we have Loma. Now Loma's a huge pacifist, but also she tries her best to defuse any situation, but obviously if something wrong is going on, then she will take action. And I'm glad she had like a more of like a gentle personality, especially with like her powers and what she can actually do with her powers. Instead she uses to help people, and she's just a classic like nice character.
Standing before you as a scion of Hyperborea and the Frost Moon's emissary, I say this.
Next up, Aino. Now, I really loved Aino since she is really adorable. We can see her intelligence shining through, obviously, especially with all her inventions. I love how, like, her little relationship with Anefa, and how Anefa, like, pretty much takes care of her, like, in, like, a mom role. And I love their little dynamic going on. But overall, she's an okay character. I can't say, like, too much about her, but she's a solid character. And speaking of Aino, we have Anefa. Now, Anefa... Where do I start? Now, first off, let me say, I really love Nefa. Like, usually with characters that are robots, it's really hard to make them, like, really likable, or a character that you would say is your favorite, since, like, you know, robots are shown to have, like, no emotion. But the way they worked Anefa was really smart, and obviously we can see that, you know, she is a robot, and they make that very clear, but also they gave her like some sort of like emotions, and they had amazing story quest for her, one of the best, I will say. So Anefa already had like so much going on before like we even entered Krai, but what she was doing in Krai, I gotta give her a round of applause for that. Anefa's character, I gotta say, is probably like one of the best written characters we have in Krai so far, which it might be a hot take, I don't know, but Anefa, really well written. Then next up we have Flins. Now Flins is a calm and cool, collected character, and he has an overall chill personality, but he's also not a repeat of anyone. Like, he looks like he keeps to himself, but also he's pretty helpful, and he goes around, and he shows that he actually has a personality, and isn't this like, you know, character that just like quiet all the time and like speaks in like some type of attitude. He actually has a personality, and he actually knows when to leave a situation instead of awkwardly sitting there, so good on Flins. And also, I don't know why, but I completely forgot to mention about Jehoda. Now Jehoda, she's a pretty cool character. I can't say like she's like one of my favorites, but she is a really fun character, and she's actually really funny, especially with her facial expressions. It reminds me of Kachin a little bit, and I'm just glad they have like some character for some comedic relief, or comedic relief, I don't know, whatever. But I'm really glad we get to see her inner monologue going on, and how she was kind of hesitant to help us, especially since we were infiltrating a Fatui base. And I'm glad that she didn't just like dive right in. I'm glad she had her doubts and trying to get us to lead the situation. But when she realized she was already too far in, she tried her best to make the best out of that situation, and she was actually doing her job. and in the fact that it was like so realistic that she wanted to leave, which honestly anyone else would probably want to leave instead of having this, oh yeah, I got this. She realized that it's the Fatui and we're going directly into the Fatui base, especially with harbingers just lurking around. She actually had a brain and wanted to actually leave, and I love that realistic part about her. Now, speaking of Fatui, we have Sandrone. Now, I know a lot of people dislike Sandrone, but honestly, I feel like she's one of my favorite harbingers. And the reason why she's one of my favorite harbingers is because of her confidence. Now, a lot of harbingers, you know, obviously they're overly cocky and they have a lot of confidence within themselves. But the fact that she went head on with a sinner, I don't know, like that was genuinely impressive. And the fact that she wanted to keep on fighting, even though we all know what would have happened. So thankfully she got out the situation, but overall Sandrone, I find her kind of funny, especially her little beef with Columbina there. It kind of gave like, you know, like angry sister vibes, I guess. But it was a really nice like interaction between those two. But I'm really excited for what they're going to do with Sandrone, and I'm not sure if she's going to be playable, but it's also a 50-50 if she becomes playable or not. And also there's a lot of mystery surrounding Sandrone between her and Bob. Yes, I'm calling him Bob. And also the fight between her and rerir, I like how she was calculating his moves and she didn't go in completely blind. She actually like studied the enemy a little to the best of her abilities. So that was really cool to see. Now finally, we have the other harbinger in krai, Columbina. Now, Columbina, I had like the most expectations for her, and honestly, most of my expectations were met, but not in the way I expected them to be met. Now, Columbina, she's also a gentle character, but also she has this like off-putting vibe in a way. I'm not sure exactly how to explain it. Like, I have a feeling that like once we go like a little deeper into like the next few patches, I feel like we're gonna learn a little more sinister things about her. I have a feeling that like she's not completely like she's not like as completely like good as we think she is for right now. I have a feeling there's like some type of like hidden truths, and hopefully there's like a little like dark side about her. Obviously we can see her power when she was changing the flowers, so I like that we got to see a little glimpse of her power, but I can't say too much about Columbina as I feel like there's a lot more about her that we need to learn. But so far I like the mysteriousness surrounding her and how she kind of speaks like in a certain way that Arlecchino described, so I liked how they lived up to that expectation. But overall, Columbina, she's meeting expectations so well, and I like her character so far.
Still wish to return to the moon.
Now, let's talk about map and scenery, and over here we have my drawing of krai's map. You know, every now and then, whenever I draw on this whiteboard, I really do like reflect on why didn't I just become an artist, you know? Like, you see this? This was free-handed, no tracing, just in case you couldn't tell, like this was free-handed and I did not like trace this or anything. But let's talk about the map and scenery. Now, one of the main things that I absolutely loved about the krai map was no area felt like a repeat of another. Every like section or like each island, it all felt like vastly different from another. Now, starting off with the Frost Moons of Scions, this entire island, I loved how they kept a certain aesthetic throughout this like entire island, because usually Genshin, like, I don't know, it's kind of like inconsistent sometimes with like some islands, like there's like a lot going on, but they kept a consistent theme going on for this island, especially with the color theme. It was like a dark blue / purple. Now this entire island, it felt really surreal, and it also gave me vibes of Enkonomiya kinda. I don't know if I'm just crazy, but overall it did give me a lot of vibes of Enkonomiya. And the scenery, it was just up to par, and I absolutely love what they did with the Frost Moon Scions over here. Now, over here at the Fatui base, that's what I'll call this island. The middle section where the Fatui's like huge building is, it kind of gave me like wasteland vibes. In only this like section right here, if you know what I'm talking about, like directly by the Fatui base, like this small little circle, it gave me like wasteland vibes in a way, but it also, like, I like how it breaks apart and you have this like small little island and it's just like, all kind of dark and gloomy. And if you stand like across from here, it has pretty nice views coming in with the scenery, and they just did really well with like how the building design was, I guess. But overall, it made for great scenery right here. And if you go over to this island like kind of branching off like the Fatui building. It goes again with the gloomy vibes, and obviously, you know, something dark is happening around here. And I like how like the little beach area feels around here too. Overall, the island, it was nice. Now over at the Lempo Isle, I really like this area as well. Paimon did not mess with this area at all. Paimon, I feel like she kind of let some of her discrimination show a little when we first came to Krai. Branch off to what I said before. The area, I like how each island feels like a different place. Like it doesn't like seem like it's all connected. So Krai is just everything random's going on, and it kind of branches off to like what the whole point of Krai is, with all these different factions happening. And I really liked how they kept that theme and that consistency with the story. And overall, the scenery in each of these islands, it was just really gorgeous, especially in the Frostmoon Scions area. All these, like, all the scenery, it made for some really nice views. Now fourth, we're going to be talking about enemies. I mean, we had some good Fatui enemies. They had really cool designs. We had some weird looking enemies that I don't exactly know what they are. And if you know what they are, please tell me. I'll probably put like a video up right now of what I'm talking about. But overall, they had cool designs. Now, what I really want to talk about was the Wild Hunt enemies. Now, you better hope that you happen to like at least one character from Krai, because you are gonna have some. You're gonna have some beef with the Wild Hunt enemies, and if you aren't pulling for them to get that lunar reaction, you're gonna be spending a while trying to take them down, okay? And you know they're gonna show up in Abyss the next rotation. We all know it might get really annoying if you don't have some lunar characters, so you should definitely pull for them. Now guys, it's time for the final section of the video and my final thoughts. And I know some of you may be crying that the video is already over. I'm so sorry, but you know how you can fix that? By subscribing. So if you haven't subscribed, you should probably do it now, so like to avoid like more tears, since like I know you like probably miss me and you'll like, oh no, what do I do? If you subscribe, then like you'll like be notified and like when I post again. Anyway, sorry, we're gonna go back to final thoughts. This region, it is incredibly promising. I feel like they took a lot of inconsistencies that the other regions had and pretty much fixed them, especially in this sub-region. Now, some like negative feedback that this region had that I've seen so far was that the region was incredibly easy to explore and incredibly easy to 100% exploration at all. Now, I'm gonna say something from both sides. I do think it's easy to explore, especially once you get acquainted with the new exploration mechanics. It's pretty easy to up 100% everything with this region, but also on the other hand, it is like the first initial release, and it is pretty easy to like 100% like, you know, a region when it first comes out, especially since it's not like too much content. So it's kind of 50-50 there, but I do lean more that it was really easy to explore and easy to 100%. I feel like it didn't take much time to go around and complete everything, but I feel like there could have been a little bit more content like going on with like exploration wise, but overall there's not much I can say for negativity. Also with the Wild Hunt, but I already explained that, so there wasn't too much like negativity going on. And if you guys seen any like negative comments about the region, or you think, or you played it and you have something negative to say about it, please let me know down in the comments. Now, my number one complaint about this region is it didn't have Farina, which is really disappointing. I don't know how Genshin's gonna recover from this. Maybe she shows up later, but maybe she gets her second story quest. But overall, no Farina so far, which is I guess fine, but you know, Genshin needs to fix this like inconsistency, especially since Farina's the main character. But that's all I can say. But thank you so much for watching this video, and once again, if you haven't subscribed, do it now. And if you haven't watched any of my videos, you should really be disappointed in yourself. No, but thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.